out.
I'm honored. Absolutely.
And we know you're a huge hockey fan, so we have a lot on the agenda. But how have you been? What have you been up to lately?
I'm a Canadian small town guy. So, we were on the road a lot this year, 2 trips to Europe and all over the US and Canada. And so, we wound down, and, I'm an outdoorsman, so it's been hunting and, up here we have to, winterize all the things that we love, I love the summer and, being by the water and all that kind of stuff and boating and all that, all the things that you need to put away when the ice comes. So that's what I've been doing.
That sounds good. Whereabouts to your cottage?
So I'm about 2 hours northeast of Toronto. So I'm in an area where
in Muskokas, are you?
Close to there, just a little bit east of there. It's nice. It's, you can get to the lake and just have that serenity, but I'm still, an hour to the airport because, I do travel. I don't know if I travel as much as Niner, but I travel a lot.
I'm sure you're at all, by the way.
I'm sure your seats are better than my seats, though. Let me tell you.
Yeah. On the plane, maybe not the events.
That's true.
You and Niner go back a long way too, huh? Tell us about how you guys met and where that started up.
So we have a mutual friend, Brad Lukowich, who's, he's been really, really tight with us. And, Lukowich, we go back to, he won the cup with Tampa Bay, and we played a show in San Jose, California, and we had a couple days off. Our bus driver was a huge hockey fan, and Luke was having his Stanley Cup party in Cranbrook, British Columbia, which is obviously Canada. So we, this is when we were young and, I don't know, full of piss and vinegar. Now I think we're just full of piss, but we decided to drive from San Jose to Cranbrook, BC in time to make it for Luke's cup party. We got hassled at the border for hours. By the time we got there, everybody was drunk, if not passed out. The guy that, there's a guy that travels with the Stanley Cup, as we know. He was so exhausted. He was actually happy for us to take the cup, and we took it on our bus, and we were able to read the cup. And, he said 2 things. He said, no illicit drugs near the cup and no photos of the cup with any illicit drugs. Other than that, have a beer out of the cup. So that was like a highlight of really when we got tight with Lukowich was that, we took the cup off his hands for a couple hours.
That's awesome. So, I mean, that's
Niner,
how you
met with him on that trip?
I was not. I probably had a UFC show to do actually, but I was actually living with Brad at the time. So we had good times, and I was able to celebrate his Dallas Cup party with him, but not the Tampa one. But and like Neil said, we go way back, and every time I'm up in Toronto, which I'll actually be there next month, and Neil and the band are going to come to the UFC fight there. But their studio's also there. So I've been able to go into the studio when they were doing some recordings and kind of watch how everything happens. And it's a really cool, neat background feature to be able to see that and how it works. But I know you guys are exhausted. We actually just saw you probably about a month and a half ago. You guys came through Phoenix and then down to Dallas. And I was actually honored enough to go to both those concerts. So that was a lot of fun.
That was a lot of fun. Yeah, we were going. I think we hit 27 cities on that tour, and wow. It was nice to see Craig out for a couple of the shows. And the last time before that we had hung out was we actually went to a UFC fight together. It was in Toronto as well, and that was when Bones Jones was fighting, to my knowledge. Was that fight? That was, that was incredible. So I'm stoked to go again, and have the expert sitting beside me.
I would like
not
that
talking
too.
about me, Niner, that's for sure.
And then you can attend a hockey game with the expert Panger with you. So, because I know you're huge. So you're a big hockey fan. Was it always the Toronto Maple Leafs for you? Or
absolutely. I was at the game with my son against the Panthers the other night.
Oh, nice.
And that was when they called back the shootout goal. Yep. And so, I was my son and I were one of the many who said, "Oh, it's over." We got up and we walked out. And, I used the restroom, and my son was out there, and he could hear all these people yelling. By the time I came out, he's like, "Dad, we won." I'm like, "What are you talking about? We won." So,
bad timing for the bathroom break.
Yeah, we were celebrating on the way out anyway. So it was fun.
Nice. Do you get recognized at games? Is it kind of hard for you to?
In Toronto, it does happen, but people are respectful and cool. I think that it's, we're pretty humble Canadian guys, so I think we don't take that thing for granted. It means that business is good, I suppose.
For sure. Take me back to the early days of 3 Days Grace. I want to know, like, how, were you always into music and always a drummer? And did you just really want to, find a band and create a band? Or take me through the early days of how you created this band.
Well, I was really fortunate that my mother was really supportive with any instrument that I wanted to pick up. I found early that I could listen to something that I heard on the radio and, as a young kid, play it on piano pretty quickly and learn by ear. So I got into music, piano lessons actually, and went through like the Royal Conservatory, which was a lot of like classical music, which as a kid isn't like the most edgy stuff, but I stuck with it, and I had a lot of support with also a music teacher at my elementary school, who then his wife was my piano teacher. So once or twice a week I would stay after school and he would give me a ride to his house to get a lesson with his piano teacher wife. And during that hour before we would leave, I had an hour to, experiment in the music room. And that's when I fell in love with the drums. And then, stuck with that and piano. And then in high school, I wanted to form a band. I knew I wasn't going to be like a football player. I needed to find a way to be cool, I guess. And so the 3 Days Grace really formed in the 9th grade for us. When I was 14 years old.
And like,
that is absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Were you self-taught with the drums? Like when you sat down to play, 'cause I played the piano my whole life, but I could never just sit down and do another instrument. I had to like really study the piano and the sheet music and everything that my teacher was teaching me. But for you, I mean, when you decided, hey, I'm just going to go try out this drum set sitting over here, did you teach yourself that?
More or less,
wow.
I did. And actually I play open-handed. So I play left-handed and right-footed, which is a bit odd, but it's becoming a little bit more prevalent now. Yeah. So it's a little bit backwards in that respect, but it was only when I got a little bit more into it, and actually like the band was, we were in college, but we were getting some attention in Toronto at the time, and I was meeting a lot of other drummers. And it was only then that I really started learning about the marching rudiments and how important in like incorporating your marching rudiments. And there are several of them that are really intricate patterns, sticking patterns, that you can incorporate that into rock drumming. And as soon as I learned that, everything changed. And I look at it now like, man, I wish someone had shown me that when I was 10, but now when young kids say, hey, for an aspiring drummer, do you have any advice? And I'm always like, listen, I know it's going to be boring and it's not going to feel like you're rocking like you want. Everybody wants to rock. Sit down and learn all the marching rudiments, and then there will be rock. Yeah.
Wow, that's so cool.
No wonder I was no good in music. I couldn't read.
You just wanted to rock.
I taught left-handed, and I couldn't make a glove. I couldn't make a toe save on my right. I was all backwards. And my grade 4 math music teacher, Mrs. Meeker, Howie Meeker's sister, told me, "No, wow. You're just no good, kid. You're just no good. You just don't have it. Some guys have it, and some guys don't, huh?
Yeah.
You can't teach somebody that can't read music or understand it. It just can't happen." Is that right?
I think there is something about, tapping into, because all music is just a collection of frequencies, and some are harmonious and some are aharmonious. And I think maybe just some people hear it differently than others, just like everything else in life. Some people just perceive things differently, and sometimes raw talent is born out of that difference in perception.
And Neil, how did you guys come up with the rest of the band? Did you guys go to school together or just lived in the area?
Yeah. So basically, Adam, our old lead singer, and I met in the 9th grade, and we formed the band then. He then moved to a little town outside of, the big city that we were living in of 80,000 people. And so, he kind of, that was it. I was kind of like, oh, this isn't cool. So I sort of followed him out there. I didn't change schools, but, as soon as I got my I only had my learner's permit, but my mother couldn't completely understand what version of license I had. So I was driving. I was driving, fully driving, and I was driving out to this little town that Adam had moved out to, and then the band morphed a little bit there, and that's really when we started cutting our teeth. And we were, it's a small country town, so there'd be local fairs, and we'd play on the hay wagon for the talent show, and we would play any place that would have us. We opened for a movie once. I remember that. We played a wedding. It was a loud wedding.
Yeah, I've heard
and that was kind of really the birth of it. We decided, let's move to Toronto as a band. Even though we were going to school in Peterborough and Toronto and around the area, we moved to Toronto. We met the right people and had the right resources to record and experiment. And one night at 4:00 a.m, we wrote a song called "I Hate Everything About You." And the person that was sort of supporting us and investing in our career at that point said, I knew you guys had it in you. You did it. He flew to New York City with that song. And we had American record labels coming up and trying to sign us all over the place. And my life changed forever.
That's incredible. So growing up, who were some of your
Did you say the song was "I Hate Everything About You"?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And that today is still our biggest song in 20 years. So yeah, it just went, it was it's funny because people think, wow, you just went from nothing to like stardom in overnight. And it was like, no, I didn't. We were 14, so that's when
no one saw your early days and your, 9th grade and 10th grade and all the times you were trying to aspire to be something great. And, who were some of your musical inspirations growing up, or, did you like certain bands and want to mimic them, or drummers?
Yeah, for sure. I think, my brother's 8 years older than me, and so it was a lot of Led Zeppelin and a lot of Black Sabbath. And I just remember one of my earliest memories of just like being drawn to music that I'm hearing in a distance and not knowing why. I remember thinking that there was something about the rhythm and the drums that was different than anything I'd ever heard, being 7 years old or 8 years old or whatever. And I knew that there was something special about that. And it turns out that was the Led Zeppelin that my brother was listening to. And obviously that rhythm section is like nothing that's ever been or maybe ever will be.
Yeah. And
so it's interesting now looking back as a kid, I was picking up on that and I didn't quite know why. And it turns out is because it's just never been done before. And I think that really was, that kind of, put the stake in the ground for drumming for me.
It's so cool. It's similar.
What other Canadian bands, or what Canadian bands influenced you?
There's a band that really influenced us called Finger 11. And they've had huge songs in the US. They're a pretty eclectic band. They have a couple different sounds, but their early records, we were like, basically like, that's who we want to be. We want to sound like that. We wanted to produce like that. And now we're good friends with them and stuff like that. Yeah. Small world.
That is a small world. I was going to ask you because I'm a huge Dave Grohl fan, big Foo Fighters fan, but just love Dave Grohl. I read his book last year, and it's a really similar story from childhood as to what you're describing. Just the fact that he was this kid that had this itch. He knew he had a special talent. He knew he had a gift. He didn't want to go out and play with the kids in the street. He wanted to literally be home. And it was his mom that helped him get, where he wanted to be, because she allowed him to just sow those creative oats at home and figure it out. Yeah. But I'm fascinated by his desire and need to be like, he never feels like he's got it quite right. He's not where he wants to be still, like continuing to aspire for greatness. And I'm like, you're Dave Grohl, and I wonder if you kind of feel that way too. Like we feel it as broadcasters, we never quite get a show right, even if it's the best one we've had yet. But do you ever feel that way where you're like, oh, we can do it so differently, or we can be better in this area?
Yeah. So, I mean, it is hard to take the brush off the canvas. I think that's one analogy that I make. And that's why I could never be a mixer when it comes to mixing a record, because you're really the last thing before it goes public. So, you really have to trust your instincts that it's at the point where it can't get any better in your hands. As far as like growing up with it and like the reference with Dave Grohl, I got to say, like, one thing, my mother, she was like, just super supportive. I mean, it was the drums and it was so loud, and she didn't really get to see 3 Days Grace, like really kind of when it ramped off, but it's in hindsight, just seeing like she was the one that enabled the whole thing. We lived like 30 seconds from the high school. So we had the jam house, and we'd go for lunch and jam. So yeah, it was always that you had to have that support system. It sounded like Dave Grohl had it as well, which is key, Yeah. As far as just striving for more, I think Brad, who's our bass player, and we talk a lot about how there's going to be plenty of time when we can sit, on the porch and reflect and have chuckles and whatever about all the good times and all the craziness and stuff. But right now is still the time for us to keep our heads down and just like do the work. And we can look at all, there'll be time enough for counting when the dealing's done. You know what I mean? And that's how we think.
Kenny Rogers, attaboy.
Yeah, and I think that we're still in that, but along the way, even though we don't get wrapped up in stats and records and stuff, we've had some amazing achievements, and we consider those still a reflection of having the fans there for us. If we didn't have those fans, then we wouldn't have the radio airplay and the support and the ticket sales and all that make this whole thing possible.
Hey, Neil, we were talking back in Dallas in the dressing room before you guys went on, how amazing it is. You guys are selling out all these arenas throughout the world. You guys came off that huge Europe tour. You're throughout the US. What are some of your favorite cities or countries that you guys have been to, or maybe like the biggest audience, that hardcore fan of yours?
Oh man, so many. Well, we were actually going to Russia a lot before all the nonsense happened with the war and stuff. I mean, we had been there like 6 times. And it was just incredible. The first time we went there, we didn't know what to expect. We were just taking a chance because we had been getting all of these messages from, Russian fans and Facebook. And there's actually it's like Facebook. It's called vk.com. It's an Eastern European version of Facebook. We didn't even realize it existed at the time. It's massive,
Wow.
And so we were like, when we first were learning about it, the promoter that was like really ambitious to get us over there was saying like, oh yeah, you need to meet this guy who's your head of your community on vk.com. We're like, okay, yeah, maybe we will. They're like, no. It's got 125,000 members. We're like, what? we're like, okay. And they're like, we're going to book you for 8 cities. And we put on 8 cities on sale in Russia, and they just sold out instantly. So we added like 8 more. The first time we went there, we played 16 Russian cities. Like in deep Siberia, like right near Kazakhstan, like Kazan and Moscow, obviously, and it was just like nothing we've ever seen. And so I have to say, the most beautiful city I've ever seen is St. Petersburg, Russia. It is just, it's got the canals, and at night it's all lit up, and there's these dinner boats you can go on, and it's a bit of a drag that we're not going to be there for the foreseeable future. And I think that there's like a stigma attached with that part of the world where I met so many great people over there who want to live life just like we are, and wake up and just be happy and enjoy family and thrive. And so it's kind of sad that we can't go there right now. But I love, and I know Craig, you've been down there and you speak pretty highly of it. I always love me some Brazil, Sao Paulo and Rio, and you get, you have a caipirinha by the beach, and you get,
nice.
you go and you eat as
my
much
language
meat
now.
Yeah, you go to that restaurant where you can eat as much meat off a stick as you could possibly eat.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah. I do remember
the hockey puck, red or green.
Yeah, and even if it's red, they're still bringing you meat. One morning, and I don't know if you're familiar with the caipirinha, but it's made from an alcohol called cachaça, which is distilled from sugarcane, and it's rather strong but smooth. And it was the first time we were in Rio, so we got into the caipirinhas by the beach, having a great time. And the next morning, I did not feel so well. Not at all. Now the hotel that we were staying at is right at the beach at Copacabana Beach, overlooking the beach. And I've never felt, this was like a degree of shame that I hadn't really felt before, because here I am, I hadn't seen the sun in probably, I don't know, in a very long time. And I'm like,
gotta be a song there.
Too hungover to go outside. I open the blinds. Okay. All I see are thousands of super fit, tanned Brazilians, like beach volleyball and running and swimming and surfing and all this stuff. And you see people like, there's people like parachuting and all this. And here I am just sitting like there, just like gray and hungover. And I'm just like, Neil, you piece of shit.
Get out of bed. Yeah. That's awesome.
Oh, God.
Probably one of the same hotels. I was down in Rio doing beach volleyball for the Olympics a couple years ago. And we stayed right on Copacabana Beach. The beach volleyball venue was on the beach across the street from my hotel. My commute was like, 20 yards up to the, but it was the same thing. And like the energy and the flair and the Brazilian mentality and mindset, it was palpable. You could feel it everywhere. It was so exciting.
There's an element of daily, of just celebrating life a little bit, down there that I feel. Another place that and I'm heading there here in a few weeks, is Costa Rica. I love Costa Rica. They have their motto is Pura Vida, which is pure life. And there's that, I kind of get that same vibe of just, you're sort of on island time, even though it's not an island, but just a little bit, you can slow down and kind of sink into the nature a little bit. And, I think that there's something just, I don't know, oceanic about, or something that like being by the ocean kind of brings that out of me for sure. So, yeah.
How many people are traveling with you when you're going to these countries? Is it like, is it a whole, traveling circus of people? Like, about how many are part of your production and your staff?
Normally anywhere from 12 to 20, depending on if we're carrying our own production. So like for the last tour, we basically, we had a production bus, so we would carry, because we carried all of our own sound equipment and everything. But it was with that one, it was a co-headliner with Chevelle. So we basically have a third bus that we are, we have people that are helping run the show. So it kind of depends. Yeah. But it's all one big sort of moving, happy family of sweaty, smelly dudes. A lot like hockey. A lot like
exactly.
Sounds great, actually. I like that.
Absolutely. It is until it's,
Neil, during real big hockey games, or maybe like, for example, last year when the Leafs finally, I'm from Ottawa, so I was a Montreal Canadiens fan growing up. When the Leafs finally won their first playoff series since 2004, do you guys have that ability on the bus? Are you watching games? Are you fully tuned into whatever I know your favorite team's Toronto, but whatever the other guys are?
Oh yeah. 100%. We watch a lot of the games. In fact, actually it was a pretty cool experience. We were in Chicago recently. It was during the playoffs last year. And, one of my good friends is Luke Richardson. He and I are really tight. And great guy. He's one of the good guys. And, so, he's obviously head coach of the Blackhawks. Oh,
because you're a Peterborough guy. Well, let me put this together here. He's a Peterborough Pete, and you're a Peterborough guy. I grew up with Luke in Ottawa. That's that. Now the tie-ins right here. Okay.
Making sense. Yeah.
Love it.
And so we were going on stage. He came out to a 3 Days Grace show, but we still had some time to kill. And the Leafs were playing a game, and I think it was a pretty important game. I can't remember which one it was, but what was really cool, you never think of it like how different of an experience it would be to watch a hockey game with a NHL head coach. Like, he was talking about things that you'd never see, just being like a regular guy watching it. But just the patterns and just explaining how they were breaking out. And that was a really cool experience. And he had a lot to say about the importance of the video coach these days and kind of what happens, after the period. There's kind of there's an important meeting that takes place a lot of time between like head coach and video coach, where they really quickly kind of go through and prioritize the few items that they're going to bring up in the dressing room to motivate the guys, and how they have to prioritize what you can't just drop 10 to 12 things on a team of guys and expect them to execute everything. So that was just really cool to get that perspective while watching the game, and I think the game.
Interesting you
I
say
think that
that.
mainly mattered. It mainly mattered about what draft pick they were getting. I think that's why he was.
Oh, here we go.
Right. But it's interesting you say that too, Neil, because now I'm with the Blackhawks and now I'm with Luke all the time. And I'll throw a shout out to his two video coaches because they're both smart asses. So I'm going to, Adam Gill is one of them and Matt Meacham's the other one. And every time I come out after a game, whether I say something stupid or somebody else does or whatever, they look at me and they've got this look on their eyes like, oh, and I'm like, okay, what happened? What happened during the game? What did I say? What did he say? So anyway, these guys are great. You're right about the camaraderie and the teaching mechanism of the video coach. I mean, that's an area that 5-6 years ago, you might have had one guy and he wasn't really that experienced. Now they've got 2 and 3 video coaches during the course of a game. I'm sure the Leafs, because the Leafs staff is the largest staff I've ever seen. I mean, they probably have 12 video coaches and probably 15 analytics guys just breaking down the video coaches during games. So
based on how
a great deal.
Based upon how much the popcorn costs when I took my son the other night, it sounds like, they could probably, that's why they can afford a staff like that is,
I was going to say, based on their success rate as of late, they should maybe
how much
eliminate
was the popcorn?
positions.
What's that? In Canadian dollars, whoo, it was up there. No, it's, they're great. They're a great team. I mean, they look awesome right now. I mean, I think that they got a lot going on.
Neil, last year in the playoffs, there's something there. That's a well-oiled machine there. When they won that, I'm going to go back to Toronto for a second because it was an important time. It was the first win since 2004, and I actually did that with Steve Levy. Niner, you might have been with me at ESPN in 2004. The Leafs beat Ottawa, I think, in Game 7. Nieuwendyk's goal down the wing on Patrick Lalime, if I'm not mistaken. And they hadn't won a playoff series since then. And then I did the series with Brendan Burke in 2023. So it was an amazing time and experience. After that win, Neil, as a passionate fan of the Toronto Maple Leafs, was it just too high? Like that disappointment, because I also did the next series against Florida, and it just went bang, and it was gone just like that. I mean, how did that feel as and I'm not rubbing in, but how did it feel as a Leaf fan going from such a high echelon to bang, it's over already?
I think
that it was.
I mean, I think the Leafs have demonstrated that history can repeat itself in that, unfortunately, in that way. I don't know. Yeah, I think with the Leafs, it's a lifer thing. You're a fan for life. You're not. I mean, there's no jumping ship, so you kind of just got to ride the highs and lows. That's all part of the thing, you know. But like right now, it's pretty cool right now to think of like how many stars we have.
Yep.
Like we're like, I mean, if you ever thought of a stacked team, I think we are pretty stacked with just, you know, if we have like strengthened the defense a little bit, I think that it's a real, like this could be very special, you know, of a team. So,
for sure. Goalie, St. Louis, Joseph Wall, he's good. I like him.
He is really good. Yeah, he's very good. I'm going to the game Saturday as well. Saturday against the Predators, I believe.
Nice. Oh, nice. Nashville. That's a good one. Do you ever play down in Nashville? Do you ever get an opportunity to play in front of that crowd?
Yeah, we've played Bridgestone Arena before. Right. I love Nashville. It's changed a lot. It's a little wild these days now. It's
but I would imagine playing there, you've got such a variety of people in attendance. You've got country music fans, you've got rock and roll fans, heavy metal, whatever it is. Like there's just so much. It's not just all country down there, which I think is probably a misperception, but you probably feel that when you play in that venue.
Oh yeah, it's so eclectic down there now. I mean, when you look around, it's like the bachelorette capital of the world.
Yeah, I
know. But no, it's like just the history down there, and the Pred. I mean, the Preds, they're always, they're a good team. Actually, Mike Fisher's went to same high school as me. His older brother was in my grade, and it's a small town. Peterborough's like a real major hockey town,
Yeah. Wasn't his brother a goalie growing up though, Neil?
Pardon me?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. No, I just asked. Wasn't Fish his brother? I think he was a goalie growing up.
Yeah, there's Rob, his older brother, and then there's Bud Fisher, his younger brother. But,
it was Bud. Yeah, absolutely. Everybody's got a goalie in the family.
Yeah, Bud Fisher. He's got a great Instagram called Catching Deers, and it's like a hunting.
Yes, he does.
And he's got an alter ego named Rut Daniels, and he does some comedy and stuff. But he also, it's great. It's really I don't know if you remember the Red Green Show, but it's very much like that.
Awesome.
So as a fellow Canadian, can I throw this at you? Is it if you have a couple of beers, is it a couple of beer or a couple of beers? If you catch a couple of beers, is it deers or deer?
It's not deer. Catching deers is definitely a play. I think that people would look at you funny if you said that, like for real. But a couple of beers is a couple of beers. Yeah. Speaking of,
Nice.
Now these are actually called near beers. They're near beers. I'm partaking, but there's no alcohol.
Really?
It's nice. Yeah, you can enjoy a beer and still, go for a jog after, I guess.
I don't know how you guys do it night in and night out, because that after Dallas, I couldn't even recover for 2 days. My liver was done.
This is a commercial. This is becoming a commercial for Partake Near Beers. That's how we do it. You got to stay healthy out there. You have a dangerous amount of freedom out on the road. I'm sure a lot of hockey players can attest to that. I mean, the hockey being on the road is a little more regimented. I mean, you got a coach breathing down your neck and stuff. And with the rock band thing, you don't have that. You're the boss. We are the bosses, and it kind of and so you have to really self-discipline, and it's really important because you can go. I mean, you can just imagine, a rock concert to everybody going there is a party, right? Everybody, and you have lots of, you got friends that you've met, or you got cousins that are in town, and you're hosting all these people, and everybody, it's a party, and for a while there, for a very long time, for me, it was a party too. Because it's a big rock star thing, and everybody's big energy, and but that can, obviously all the health reasons are there. It's not sustainable, and just hydration. If you're, as a drummer, it's like if I go up there dehydrated, I'm in a lot of trouble. And you see, and if you see a lot of bands out there, a lot of the bigger bands now, they are, a lot of bands are sober, because you do realize that it's just, I mean, you can't, it's not sustainable. You'll go down a path. And so that's been kind of the key to the longevity and you got to find a way, you got to find things out there that you enjoy, other than partying. So for me, it's been golf. I love playing golf. You get to see, it's a great way to see the world, right? It's just like playing 18 on a day off. You don't know where you are. And,
That's cool. What changed for you, Neil? When did you notice okay, this crazy rock star life is not sustainable. I want my career to be sustainable, but I can't burn the wick at both ends. Was there a turning point for you?
Yeah. It's just when you start to become nocturnal, because you play the rock show at 9 p.m. and you play until 11. And then, for the next 45 minutes, I like to I got to wind down. I have a glass of wine. I'm in my robe. I need that. And then there's going to be some sort of social afterwards, meet and greet. You meet the promoters, all this kind of stuff. The bus isn't leaving till 3 a.m. because. And you play the next day, and, you got to sleep well at night. And then the next day you don't play till 9 p.m. either. So sometimes you get into that thing where you're like, well, why wake up early if I have to be on at 9 p.m. And then you start turning into a vampire. And then, as you get older, it's like, if you're wasting daylight, then you're wasting life. That's just a fact, and I don't know. I'm in my 40s now. Maybe it took me 40 years to realize daylight is very valuable.
It's sleeping on the bunks on the bus. I think recently, didn't you happen to fall out of one?
I did. I'm going to blame the bus driver. I think, I did hear some rumble strips. Rumble strips, but that could have just been the head trauma. I'm not sure. No, I whacked my face pretty good. Yeah, I whacked my face pretty good. It looked tough. I should have just said that I was had to take a couple guys out,
In a bar fight,
bunk or bottom bunk.
Yeah.
I was in the middle, and I whacked my head off of the railing of the bottom. So.
Oh, not good.
Left a good mark on you.
The reason bunk beds are for little kids, right?
Yeah.
That's so funny. Good stuff. What's next for you guys? What's
the slap shot bus?
I know. Yeah. Right. What's up? Well, what's up for next for, I'm going hunting. Actually, I don't know if you can see here. There's
Ooh.
there's,
Oh,
See
nice.
it.
that was
Yeah.
Bambi's uncle. That
Hunting lodge.
was
Oh,
Bambi's
yeah.
uncle. I'm going, actually, there's the season started today for 1 week. It's muzzleloader season. So I'm actually on I've got like 80 acres up here. I'm very, very lucky where I live. And so for 1 week, you can use a musket. It's a musket, basically. And so, yeah, it's a black powder gun. And so I'm going to go out there and I'm going to sit in a tree with a black powder gun until dark. That's what I'm doing. I don't know did you mean today or do you mean like in the future?
Hey,
That is
I'm
unbelievable.
not even going to tell you what I meant because I love that answer. So we're good.
Yeah, I've got it on here. I don't know.
I love it.
See,
That's a
people
great
don't think Canadians have guns, but this is like this is actually a muzzle loading gun. You got to put the powder down, and it's a muzzle loader, but it's got unlike the Civil War, this one has a red dot scope.
Very cool. Very, very cool. And you'll be out there till dark waiting and you have to sit, from my understanding, my friends that hunt, you have to sit like perfectly still and silent, right?
More, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Silent for sure. And you got to move slowly. The biggest thing is that you need to be downwind. If you're upwind of like wherever you're trying to hunt, like no deer is going to come near you because their sense of smell is like more than a hound dog. So really, it's the name of the game with deer is the smell, is the scent game. You can't stink, which is tough for us hardworking guys sometimes. And just kind of playing the wind, and you never quite know. It's a lot of luck, but it's not really about for me, it's not about the killing. It's about getting out there and. It's as close to meditation as I get. Everything quiets down. You're enjoying the nature.
Yeah.
A little chilly, freezing toes.
When will you guys go back out on tour?
Concentration is outstanding.
It is. Well, yeah, being out in the forest, it's amazing. You're out there for an hour and how your senses tune right into the forest. You just, yeah, it's, I like it. But well, as far as touring, we're taking a little, this is kind of for us, a pretty substantial break. I mean, we've been thinking about maybe not touring much next year, and we may play a handful of shows here or there, but we're focused on getting back to the drawing board next year. We've compiled 20 years of video footage, and I'm just going through it now for the first time. And like we could, we might make like a mini documentary or something like that just shows the journey, and and just I think we'll be creative by the end of next year. I imagine we'll have a handful of songs that we'll want to record, and then the wheels will fire up and turn once again.
That's awesome. Well, maybe we'll get you again.
Get on that documentary, Neil.
Yes.
Hey.
Yeah,
we travel all the time. I download a lot of documentaries. I love bands. I love. Just watched one on the plane. It was Oasis. It was just simple, that concert in England, and it was just so. I just love it. So get on that for us, guy. Okay. Yeah.
Well, over the years, and I'm glad that I did. We always had those, video cameras, the mini DV cameras, with the little tapes, and I was just constantly filming everything. And now 20 years later, we've got basically the whole chronological journey of 3 Days Grace on tour and that. And but before I send the copies to the other guys, I have to like go through a little bit and get rid of the tapes of like my babies being born. My wife doesn't want me to send those tapes out to the guys.
No, I don't blame her.
Yeah, no.
a little too intimate.
Yeah.
Neil, what about the new project you're working on? You get your own record label you're working on now.
Yeah. So I have a label called Judge and Jury Records that's really gained a lot of traction over the last few years. I was really fortunate to be, brought under the wing of producer Howard Benson. He's like multiple Grammy-winning producer. Kelly Clarkson and Chris Daughtry and 3 Days Grace, Papa Roach. List goes on and on. And he wanted a co-producer, and that's how it started. So we co-produced a project together. And it went so well, we said, maybe we can consider this something bigger. And so we produced a couple more records together. We did the latest 3 Days Grace record. And then, we just decided instead of, making stuff and trying to find a partner or a home to release this music, why don't we just create our own record label and just release it ourselves. And we put together a really lean, mean promotional marketing team who they understand, like, you know, all the algorithmic stuff when it comes to promoting your music online and sharing it and all that. When I hear algorithm, I run the other way personally. I don't like that word. But we've got a really smart team and some great experience in there. And we've already had our first #1 at American Rock Radio with
Congrats.
a song called, thank you. Yeah, it was the band Starset featuring Breaking Benjamin. The song's called Waiting on the Sky to Change. So that was our real first, it was my first experience seeing it from the other side, from the label side. And I've learned so much. And it's just, you do get that same feeling though, as being in the band when you release something. It's like you feel like you've been just working on something and tinkering with it until it's the best that you can make it. And there's that moment where you throw it into the air and you hold your breath and you hope that it flies, and when it takes off and it does fly and you read the comments that, oh, I love this song and I hear my own life in the lyrics of this song and stuff. It is the most gratifying feeling ever because you made it from scratch. It came from your head and your heart. And then you get to hear what the rest of the world thinks of it. And it's just such a great feeling,
That's awesome. Cool stuff. Well, we look
great. I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it all right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Check it out. We're cruising along. We got a lot of music. Next year is going to be an exciting year for us.
Well, we're glad we got you now then when you don't get too busy. So we're really excited, Neil, that you joined us. So awesome to hear your story. And yeah, we can't wait for more musical releases from 3 Days Grace. And we wish you happy holidays and everything moving forward. So hopefully we'll touch base with you again as things take off.
Absolutely. And, I hopefully with any luck today, I'll have maybe some venison jerky for you guys. I'll smuggle some across the border for you.
Sounds great.
We love it. We love it. Have fun out there hunting. Thanks so much,
all right,
Neil.
Take care, guys. Thanks.
Thanks, Neil. Appreciate it, buddy.
See you in the
Good
playoffs,
luck.
Neil. Good luck to your Leafs.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Oh, guys, that was so much fun. And I love hearing about his interests and his hunting interests and his love of hockey. I mean, he took his son the other night. He's going again on Saturday night. It's just a really well-rounded conversation there with a really high-level musician that, I thought we were so lucky to get on. So thanks, Niner, for bringing a friend to work day today.
Exactly. Well, you know what? We are very fortunate to have Neil on today.
No doubt, Niner. That was great.
And, one of the things that we were, anytime we have a guest on, we just don't have enough time to talk about everything.
No.
And Neil got into talking about his new record label that he has, and wanted to give him a shout out too, because he's also starting a new whiskey called Souvenirs by 3 Chord Whiskey. So can't wait for that to come out and to try that. But, just to learn a little bit, we know them as rock stars, but we want to learn hey, I'm an average Joe. I take my son to a Maple Leafs game. I go hunting. Those are things that a lot of our guests and even myself didn't even know. I didn't even know he was a big hunter. So to hear about that is really cool. And boy, oh boy, are they doing a great job and they're killing it. And look forward to their next tour.
And then 3 Chords is unique because he's a drummer.
Yeah, right. Right.
But it does sound good. It's got a nice ring to it for sure. And the fact that I think what's most impressive is that he learned to begin with by being on the piano. And same thing with you, KT. You learned playing the piano, and he was with what did he not say, the Royal Conservation? Is that right? And then he picked up drums after that. So piano first, and he was he broadened his skill level after that. And just listen to him talk about the drums and the rhythm of the drums, and you can tell he's a genius. Even from my simple music mind, because I love listening to music, but I can't, I'm just no good at anything to go do with music, but I love it all. So, so it was great to listen to him. But the other part of it is I got to apologize to him because I probably think that I'm not rubbing in the Toronto Maple Leafs thing. A lot of people think that happens. They haven't won since 1967. And then they had won a playoff series in 2004 to 2000. Toronto and Toronto Maple Leafs fans are, you live and die and breathe with every single success and failure. There's so many ups and downs with those Leafs fans. It's only because they haven't won in a long time. So once they do that, if they do that again, then boy, that whole city will sigh, like really take a deep breath and maybe even get it a little even keel. But it was a real pleasure to talk to him and be a part of this conversation with him.
Yeah, it was indeed, for sure. We were happy to have him. And once that documentary comes out next year, I'm very curious to see all that behind the scenes footage over the last 20 years, and great on him for not necessarily having the foresight to do it, because I don't think he realized at the time what this would mean 20 years from now. But the fact that he has this content and is going to be able to share it with his fan base, and maybe even grow his portfolio even more with a great documentary. I mean, that's so cool. And anytime you get a unique perspective behind the scenes with that old school video of anybody, an artist, an athlete, a dignitary, anybody, I just think it's fascinating to go back in time and see how challenging things were then, what the challenges are now, how they made the most of difficult situations. So I wish him the best luck. I hope he does get that together, and afterwards maybe he'll come back on the Back to You podcast.
Sounds good. Look forward to it.
Absolutely. He'll be back on anytime.
Love it. Well, thanks everybody for listening. Back to You. Of course, you can follow us on all of our social media channels at Back to You Show. That's the number 2 in there. And we hope you've enjoyed our guests. We thank Neil Sanderson for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you guys next time. Till then.
Bye, guys.
Sounds good. Great job, KT. Niner.
See you guys.
There you go.